Good morning, everybody. We are going to be talking torque converters today, specifically the 30 series torque converter. We're going to be doing all kinds of adjustments with belts, springs on the driver, springs on the driven pulley, and we're just going to get into the whole thing about torque converters. Alright, so my plan today is we've got this 30 series torque converter. It's stock. I can't remember if I clocked it already to adjust it, but you know, it's just not performing that great, and none of them really do out of the box unless, I don't know, like your gearing and everything just happens to line up. But we've got this bike. It's got a stock 224 Predator on it, and that's one thing that it makes a big difference. You know, whatever performance mods you have and everything, it can make a big difference on torque converter tuning. But we're basically going to talk the basics about what everything does. So I've got a different size belt. I've been doing some reading. We're going to talk about this belt. I think it's a slightly longer belt, and people are saying this performs better than the belts that come on there. So we're gonna test that. I've got different driver springs. So this is basically your stall on your torque converter. So this basically adjusts what RPM you take off at. So we got 3 different springs, and we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the driven pulley, which is the most difficult one to kind of tune, and it's kind of a pain, and I think it's actually the most important one. So I've got a yellow spring for it, and then the torque converter itself also has different notches in it. So we're going to talk about tuning that as well. Alright, so I think the first thing that we're going to do with this is we are going to test this belt. So we're going to pop the cover off the torque converter, and we're going to do a test, and we're going to do a seat of the pants feel about how everything is going to involve a seat of the pants feel about how it performs. But we're also going to get data from like my speedometer, my GPS speedometer, and then I actually need to steal the tachometer off of my other bike because I want to get RPM readings. So I guess that's actually the first thing we need to do is I need to go get that tachometer, and we need to mount that to this somehow so that we can get RPM readings as for like engagement, and then also like top speed RPM, because that's going to make a big difference, and that's going to tell us a lot. So let me do that. I'll get that over here, and we'll get that thing mounted, and then we will swap out. We'll do a test run, and then we'll swap belts, and we'll see what we can find from that. All right. So here's the tack from Hardline. These things are really simple. They're battery powered, but they last like forever, I guess. I don't know how long, but a really long time. This one's years old, and you can see it's still there. It's reading 0 at the moment. I don't know a lot about this. Also, it's got hours on it, 40 hours RPM. Okay, so this is off my other bike. It's pretty simple. You just take this one wire, you wrap it around the coil wire, the spark plug wire, and that's it. And it reads RPM. So I'm going to temporarily fasten this somehow. I'm not 100% sure yet how, but I'm going to do it with zip ties, and these zip ties are too wide, so I'll make a different zip tie. Let's try these red ones. So we got that. So I'm hoping that I can just literally zip tie it just like this. Yeah, that should work just fine. Just like that. Look at that. Okay. Woo. Okay, so now basically have to just run this down and hook it around the coil wire, and that's it. Got to pull the side cover off. Okay. So we got our spark plug wire right here. This is where we're going to wrap it around. this little spot. So basically, bring it down and then run it right next to the kill switch wire. Bring it in here and wrap it around there. Let's put a zip tie around it just to keep it in place. Okay, so we got that wrapped around there. Alright, let's check that this thing works. Alright, I don't know if you guys are really going to be able to pick this up, but I'll try to zoom in for you. We're going to make sure that this works. This bike hasn't been started in a couple months, I think. So, let's see how hard it is to start. Oh, somebody left the gas on, so that's good. Oh yeah, it's working. I see the RPMs already. Alright, so we got that going. That's good. So the next thing is to swap that, test ride, and then swap the belt out. Okay, so on our test ride, we want to get top RPM. So like when it's just maxed out, what RPM is it reaching? We want to get seat of the pants feel. How does it feel when it takes off? It's basically going to be seat of the pants, top RPM. I'm going to include a little hill, so I'll tell you how it feels climbing the hill, and then we're going to swap the belt out, do the same exact run, and then we'll see what the difference is. I think because the belt, let's talk about the belt. Now let's talk about the belt. So actually, let's pull this cover off first, so that way I'm not going to put this cover back on and off all day long. So we're going to pull it off, and everything's going to be run with the cover off today. Alright, so the difference between these belts. So this belt on here is marked as 669, which is actually 669 millimeters, I believe. And these belts, people are calling, that's the one that comes with it. That's the one I think that comes with most of the torque converter kits. These belts that I got, people are calling them 725 belt because they're 725 millimeters. So in inches for people who, so you're going from 669 millimeters to 725 millimeters. In inches, the 669 is 26.34 inches, and it's 0.70 wide at the top. The 725 belt, or Comet part number 203590, it is 28 inches and 29/64, so that's just barely over a half. So 28 and a half, so you're talking, what is that? Half an inch. One. It's almost like 1 3/4 inches longer, I guess. You know, that's off the top of my head. I'm not really doing the math, but also the belt width on the 725 is 3/4 of an inch instead of 0.70, so it's slightly wider at the top of the belt. So that is really the difference here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go for a rip on this belt, and then we're going to put this belt on and see if it makes any difference. If you look online, people are mixed about it. Why would you need a longer belt if you don't need one? You want it to be as tight as possible. I don't know. We're going to do a real world test, and we are going to see. This belt is pretty new. It hasn't had a lot of run time on it. And we're just going to ride it, put this belt on there, and we'll see if it makes a difference. Alright, this is our first ride. And we're going to get some data here. Got our speedometer going. Alright, I don't know if I mentioned, but this engine is stock, but it has been degoverned. I think I mentioned that. 3,600 RPMs is all we were able to get. But we're going to see if we can do better than that. So let's go ahead and we're going to swap this belt out. That's all we're going to do to start with. I found the 669 belt. The Comet number is 203589, and the 725 number 203590. So that's the difference in the Comet number there. I like to run the Comet belts. They seem to be way better quality than these ones that come on here. So I mean, that is a factor, but this belt shows like zero wear. So let's pop this off, swap it out, go for another ride. Alright, so here's the two belts right next to each other. It's hard to get them perfectly lined up, but you can tell that the 725 belt, it does have a little bit, just a little bit more length to it. So we're going to slap that guy on and see what that does for us. My theory is that this belt will actually be able to rise up in the driver a little bit higher and possibly give us a higher top speed. That is my theory. We'll see. I'm kind of doubting my testing method a little bit. I might need to choose a different spot. I don't know. But 33 miles an hour, it's really not the top speed on this thing. You can make it go faster. So I'm wondering if I need to go and do a real true top speed. I don't know. But all we got was 33 on that last one. So 3,300 RPM, or 33 miles an hour and 3,600 RPM. Let's give it a shot. I'm really interested in what this is going to do. Alright, so we're going to start here at the end of the driveway, right before the mailbox. We're going to see what we can do. This is slightly uphill. I had a really good grab to it. So we're going to go from this mailbox down here just around that corner there. We're over 26, 36. I'm going to stop 37, going up a hill. 32. Alright, so this thing, alright, so we did 30, oh, we got to 38. Okay, so we did on the flat, we did 32 miles an hour. And I don't think we even saw 3,600. We saw like 3,550. And then we did 32 here. So, oh, that was with this belt actually. So 32, and then we did like 35, 50, and then the max we did 38, and then we saw 4,400 RPM. Alright, so on this one, we're going to go ahead and swap that belt back over, and we're going to do the same testing method. The max had a little bit of downhill in it, you know, so you can only take that with a grain of salt, but we are going to redo it here. So reset, yes. Let's go ahead and swap this hotness out. You know it's going to be hot. Okay, so there's our 725 belt. We're going to go right back with our 669 belt. It's a much tighter fit, for sure. Am I putting this on the right way? Yeah. Man, why is it that much? Oh, it's not in on the bottom. Okay, so it's a much tighter fit. One thing I can tell you for sure, that the 725 belt, when it's maxed out, it's riding a lot higher in the pulley. And we're gonna verify that with this one here, but it seems like it's riding a lot higher in the pulley. As for what that does, it's debatable, but if you think about it, in my reasoning, it seems like you should get a higher top speed if your belt is riding higher on this pulley, more towards the outside of it, then it should be turning more times, or whatever it is I'm trying to say. But it seems like you should have a higher higher top speed. But we're about to find out. So let's do the exact same test with the 669 belt. Okay, let's do that top stall speed again. Yeah, it does seem maybe a little bit lower top stall speed. Here we go. And I can confidently hold this. Like, not very fast. Okay, so on that one, it was pretty much the same, 32 miles an hour on the flat, from what we gave it, and then 38 on the downhill, max speed. The big difference I saw, though, was 4,000 on the 38 for the 669 belt and 4,400 RPM on the 725 belt, and I'm not sure why that is. I would think it would honestly be the other way around. I'm not sure, but we're going to throw the 725 belt back on, and we're going to run it one more time, and we're going to see what's going on, see if it's the same. All right, so I ran that back again with the 725 belt. I got pretty much the same results, but I got 39 miles an hour on that downhill at 4,400 RPM again. So for some reason, it's letting it run a little bit higher RPM. So my conclusion on the 725 versus the 669 belt, there's not much of a difference. I have seen belts come out, though, and that 725 belt, it rides a lot higher. I mean, it's on its verge. I don't know if it's on the verge, but it's quite a ways up out of the pulley, or at least it's a little bit up out of the pulley. So I don't know if that's really going to be an issue at all, but it hasn't been so far. I'm going to continue to run the 725 belt because it's the Comet belt that I have, and it works great, and I got 1 more mile an hour out of it downhill. But overall, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference. So the next thing we're going to test is the garter springs. So let me take you off of here and we'll talk about that. Alright, so now we're going to talk about garter springs. And what your garter springs are these springs in here. If you don't know how a 30 series torque converter works, these 2 weights right here, when the engine is moving, it's slinging the weights out. And that basically pushes against the inside of this and pushes this whole assembly out, moving the belt, okay, or grabbing the belt. So your garter springs control where it engages and how, I guess it also controls how progressively it engages. So the lighter the spring, the lower the engagement, the stall speed is, the engagement. So if you have a really light spring in here it's gonna not stall out. Let's just say numbers. Okay, let's say it's gonna stall out at 1500 RPM. But if you put a heavier spring in there, like a real heavy spring in there, you might get it up to 3000 RPM. But you know, I mean that's just speculation. Now there are some other ways to do this, and it says, and it'll show you. So I got all these. These are all Comet springs. I think so. I got the. So this is the sheet here. So one way you can get a higher stall speed, and for car guys, stall speed is basically like your torque converter. You know, you can get a higher stall torque converter for a higher performance engine. Now this engine is stock, so besides having the governor removed, so we may not really need a higher stall. I feel like I need a little bit higher stall. Just from riding the thing, I wanted to just stall out a little bit higher before it takes off. But so what I ended up getting is I think I got the pink. Yeah, so I got the orange, pink, and blue springs, I believe. Now, one way you can achieve this is you can go to aluminum. These are zinc weights. These are heavy weights that are on here. You can go to aluminum weights. I had aluminum weights with the stock spring, and it had like a 3000 RPM stall on one of my other bikes that had a more of a performance. It had a more performance engine on it, so 3000 would make sense. So for this one, I don't want to go quite that high. It feels like a 2500 stall right now, which really isn't that bad, but I want to see how things compare. Now, these stock springs, it's hard to say what they are. But so if you had a black spring, which I'm assuming is more like a stock spring, 1400 RPM. Orange spring is going to stall out at 1500 RPM. Pink is going to go to 1800. And then the blue, 2200 is the most aggressive. So, we're just gonna go ahead and swap these out. That's the only course of action at this point. So, this is a little bit tricky. So these are the blue springs. Those are the heaviest. I think we're gonna start at the lightest, which is the orange spring, which is supposedly 1500 RPM. And it might be lighter than these stock ones, to be honest with you. It's hard to say. They're a tighter wound spring, so maybe they're actually lighter than these. But we're gonna find out. So first things first, we gotta get these off of here. So we're gonna need something to pry with. Alright, so there's the first one right there. And that is definitely a heavier spring. Little dag nabbit. I really don't want to go lighter, but for scientific purposes, I feel like we might need to. I wonder how these compare to the 2200 RPM springs. Oh, I'd say they're pretty comparable to the 2200 RPM springs. So, I don't know. I don't really need a lighter engagement. It's not really what I'm going for here. So what you can do is you can basically pry this whole thing off of here, and then basically just pop the springs. So let's just do it for scientific purposes, and let's see if they're right on their engagement. Because my thing was reading 2500 RPM almost, so it might be really close to this blue spring, and maybe I should have gone in the other direction. You know, I've never really swapped these springs out before. Like I said, I did the zinc weights, but we're gonna go ahead and just do this just because. So I wonder, and I don't think you want your clips there or where they come together. You probably don't want them in where the weights are going to slide apart. So that's basically how it works right there. Yep, it goes this way. So it's that simple. Slide that back on there. Put that guy back over there. Your driver's back together. So let's pop this back on. I may like the lower engagement. We'll see. We will see. Don't really know until you try. Oh yeah, that's coming right off of idle. So we're idling at about 1600, and yeah, it's I can feel it starting to pull the bike. So that's, I mean, that's really not. You could idle it down. That's not ideal, and it's like right off of the throttle. Oh yeah, I can feel it pulling. So we definitely don't want this. Oh, it's like a bog. Got a bog on it now. Oh yeah, way slower. Wow, I slammed on the brake. Oh my God. Our day is over. What just happened? It just ripped the freaking axle out. Ugh, and just wadded up this side. So much for our testing. Ugh. All right, now I'm walking back to the house. Wow. All right, well, we're gonna have to overcome that problem if we want to continue with our testing. That was definitely worse though. It had a good bog in the middle of it. It had a good bog. You could tell it was trying to push this out too fast, and when it's pushing this out, it's drawing it down into here. So that's just the gears, it's just going through the gear too fast, and it's bogging. So we definitely, that low stall is no good. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go and fix this before we can continue this test. That's a bummer. And I gotta go get a truck or something to bring this back. All right, this is terrible. Oh yeah. Look at that thing. Yikes. All right, I don't know exactly what happened here, but there's some theories. But we're just gonna fix it. We're gonna take the wheel off. We're gonna bang this back straight, make sure there's nothing weird. It looks fine. Looks like it just got tweaked a lot. So we'll bang it back straight. We'll put everything back together. We'll make sure that the bolts are super duper tight. I think the chain came off, and I think the chain came off and it got wrapped around here, and then this seized and it was going forward and it did something. I don't know. It's hard to say, but we're just going to fix it and continue our testing. All right, you guys, I got that fixed. Everything seems to be okay. So this was terrible. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. So a lot of times, I think with these drivers, you know, they're made in China or whatever, and like I've gotten ones that have had lighter springs in them and have actuated way too easily. And this one feels like that. This is a super light spring. And what happens is it tries to draw the belt. This expands too fast, and it tries to draw the belt in here before the bike can even keep up. So it's dragging, it's lugging down and everything. So that's kind of the point of one, putting a stall on here, and two, messing with this spring, which, oh, no, it's in the furthest position. So we have the stock red spring in here, and it's already wound out to the furthest part. So you want to slow the progression to where this thing moves. That's kind of the whole point of it. And like I've done a video on the Juggernaut, and the Juggernaut is much more progressive. Like it's the design of it works much more progressively and much more consistently. These kind of drivers with the weights and the springs, it doesn't seem very linear. Like it's wanting to throw the belt out as fast as it can. At least that's what it feels like. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to the blue springs. We're gonna skip the, so what do we got here? We have the orange spring, which is 1500 RPMs with the heavy weights. We have the pink springs up there, that brings up to 18. The blues are 2200. So I'm gonna throw those on there because I think we had about a 2500 stall before. And I'm gonna throw the 22 on there and take it for a ride and see how that feels, and see if that maybe feels better. Maybe a slightly slower stall than what we had before might be better. I doubt it. And then I'll make a decision whether we're gonna just go back maybe to the stock springs, or we might, like I said before, go to the pink spring with the aluminum weights, and that might bring us up to 2800. But it's kind of a lot for the stock motor, it seems like. This thing isn't designed to rev super high or anything. The highest we've seen so far is 4400 RPM. So, but let's just go ahead and do that. I'm gonna slap those blue springs on there. Like I said, take it for a ride, and then we'll talk about if we're gonna leave it there or not. And then we'll start working on that back pulley. All right, you guys, we got those blue springs in there, and we're gonna take this thing for a cruise and see what it stalls out at. Yeah, pretty much dead on, 2200 RPM. Alright, so we got 39 miles an hour again, and close to the same RPM. I didn't quite see 4400, I saw like 3300, a little 3350, so it's not really much of a difference, but and I don't know if that has anything to do with this or with all the stuff that I just did, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab the aluminum weights. I'll show you those in a second. Alright, so we've got aluminum weights here. According to my paper, these are the zinc weights, the factory ones. We got the blue springs on there. Factory ones, 320 grams, and these are 146, so less than half the weight. So if I take these and I use the pink springs, we're gonna go to 2800. So basically 2200 with these, 2500 with the stock springs, and I think that's variable depending on the torque converter kit that you buy. And we're gonna go to 2800, see if that's good, and then we'll decide if we want to go back to 22. I don't think so. I think we'll go to 25. If we don't want to keep this, we're gonna go back to 25. So if I like this, we'll run 2800. I think that might be a good middle ground. So we're gonna use the pink springs and aluminum weights, and see how that feels. Alright, so something that is kind of surprising about the stall speed about changing these springs out is that it seems like you carry more RPM all the time. You know, you think it would be just the kickoff, you know, the start, but I mean, I carried like almost 4,500 RPM on that one. And with the stock springs that came in there, which were like 2,500 stall, we were carrying 44. And then with the blue springs, which are 2,200, we were carrying 4,300 RPM. So it does help kind of everywhere. And I'm super happy with this setup how it is. So we are stalling out at 2,800 RPM, just like it says in the chart. And that feels really good for this bike. If it was a more performance engine, I would go above 3,000. I would do probably the blue springs, and that gives you like 3,300. If you did the stock springs, that'd probably give you like 3,500. And then they have springs to go all the way up. A blue and silver spring with the lightweights, you can go all the way up to 4,600 RPM stall. So, depending on what you want. But 2,800 feels really good on this so far. And now we are going to go ahead and address our rear pulley. Okay, so here's our driven pulley. It has a red spring in it. Doesn't really mean anything. It's just the spring that comes stock with it. It comes in the middle here. So if you move it to this hole, it puts more tension on the spring. So it makes it a little bit harder. But the spring is still the same spring rate. And then same thing here. If you move it back this way, it's less tension on it. So putting more tension on it basically keeps it from going down into the pulley faster. So it slows down the gear change, if that's what you want to call it. Basically how fast it goes down and into overdrive. So some people even lock out overdrive because these engines aren't very powerful, especially stock ones, and when you pull it down into overdrive, it's really kind of struggling. So they have these yellow springs. Looks like, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a gold compression spring. I'm not sure what the gold is. Do I have gold and a yellow, or just have yellows? I think I have yellows. 68A. 68A. Yeah, so we got these yellow springs. I don't need more than one right now. I just bought some extra. I think pretty much every torque converter could use a yellow spring. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to install the yellow spring. Did I mention when we did this, I got to 40 miles an hour? So with that other stall, I don't know if I mentioned that. With the driver, we actually picked up another mile an hour by having a little bit higher stall. So I wanted to mention that. So we got to 40. That was our max so far. So basically, that's what we're going to be feeling here. We're going to see if we can get any more mile an hour, and we're going to see basically seat of the pants. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to swap this yellow spring in here. We're going to put it on the lightest setting to start with, and then we're going to go from there, and we're going to progressively go all the way to the hardest setting, and we'll see if that makes much of a difference. And we'll talk about all that. So this thing is going to come off and on 3 more times at least, and then we'll have to decide if we need to take it back. But my suspicion is that we're going to like it probably on its heaviest setting, but maybe this motor doesn't make enough power for that, so we'll see. But yes, we're going to install this and then take it for a ride on the lightest setting. Alright, these things are kind of annoying. Getting the spring back, and it's a pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it and clamp it. I'm going to find something to clamp it to the bench, and then I should be able to take this off and change it out. Twist it out a little bit. Alright. Crazy, so I got that out there, so should maybe. There it goes. Too much spring tension to... These things are tricky. There's not necessarily a good way to do it. So you got these buttons on here. You want to check these. If your one side's worn out, you can just pop these out usually and swap them over. So there's our red spring. This, I can tell you already by looking at it, is quite a bit stiffer. And that's the whole point. So you can see, well, it's slightly longer, taller, and then this wire is thicker. But actually, I think less turns. That makes like 2 whole turns, and this makes like 3. So, this should make a good difference. Let's see. Pain in the butt. Okay, so this furthest to the right spring. So if you hold this at 12, I would say that's 1, and that would be 11. So the 11 o'clock one is going to be our softest setting. So we're going to put that on there, and then we're going to twist this till it's past that button. And we're going to push it down. Free impossible. Cool. Alright, we got it in the one side. Let's put it in. There we go. Woo! Every time I do this, I end up doing it differently. I usually just muscle it in, and it's like there's no good way. You need like a specialized tool that basically presses down on the center of this and holds it down, and then like maybe so you can like turn it, you can clock it and clamp it at the same time, and even that's hard, you know, with one set of hands. If you have 2 people, it's a whole nother story. You just basically clock it, bring it down, have somebody else put the snap ring on, and you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get this reinstalled. We're going to take it for a ride and see how it feels. Alright, we got our yellow spring on there. Let's take this thing for a ride, see if we can get any more top speed. And of course, the seat of the pants. See what kind of RPM it carries. Okay. On top of it. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Am I recording? I hope I am. Can't win with this thing. Sounds a little sportier. Can't believe that just fatigued and fell off like that. I mean, that's pretty much the case every time you have an exhaust without a hanger, but putting hangers on these things is a pain in the butt. I don't know. Can't win with this thing. I gotta fix this. Let's look what kind of data we got. Felt good. I don't know if we got any more top speed, but we got, done. We 41, yep. So we picked up 1 mile an hour on that. It was carrying just like 50 more RPM, maybe a little bit more. I saw 4,500 finally on the downhill section, and then on the flats it's carrying a little bit more RPM as well. So, and same when you tape off. So like it keeps you out of going in overdrive. So like you'll see the RPMs go up if you have a tach, and then go back down as the thing goes into its gearing. So this time I saw like 47, I think, when I first took off, and then before it, you know, geared down and kind of slowed the RPM down, which is good. So I'm gonna fix the exhaust, because I don't want that to be a variable that changes things. And then I think I'm just going to go ahead and take that pulley, and we're going to go all the way to the tightest setting. So that way we actually see like a real difference. And then if we like that, we'll keep that. If we think we need to go back to the middle setting, we'll see. But we're going to go all the way to the tight setting. But first I'm going to fix this exhaust, which I hope I can just find a little sleeve, put it on there, weld it, and call it good. Because this thing, I mean, I like the exhaust on this thing. It's quiet. It's quieter than any of my other mini bikes. It's got that muffler that actually has some packing in it, and I can't believe it just failed right in the middle of the pipe. All right, so I got this piece of tubing. I'm gonna split it because it's pretty much exactly the same size, a little bit thicker, thicker wall thickness. So. And then we should be able to just basically, yeah, put this back together. So I'm going to split this, spread it out, slip it over here. I got to clean the welds, or clean the pipe for the welds, and then weld it together. It's going to be that simple, hopefully. Yeah. Okay, clean this up. Get over there. There we go. Wow, that's a much bigger gap than I thought. That's fine. We'll weld that part of the pipe up. Okay, I'm going to put this on the, basically on the top side. Right. Here. That's going to go there. So, probably clamp this together. Here we go. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right. I'm gonna get the welder going. Well, that part of the header is definitely stronger, but it doesn't mean it's going to last. The next spot to break will probably be like right here, or maybe over here. I don't know. But I'm going to clean this up, throw a little bit of paint on it, put it back on the bike, and we'll do our test drive. Because I've already got the yellow spring, and I got it cranked all the way. So all we got to do is finish this, and then we're back on that. and riding, testing it out. Alright, so we got our header fixed. You can barely see it in there. Our fix, which is good. Threw some fresh header paint on there, HVT stuff. We got our pulley on the stiffest setting, the most wound up. That was a pain to get back together. The more you wind that thing up, the harder it is to clock it and get it in. So it's on a stiffest setting. Let's see if we can pick up any speed, see how it feels. So far, the last setting was the best we've done. You know, we've done different belt, different stall speed, and now we're just working out this last driver. So it's a full-blown CVT tuning session. All right, so here's what's going on. I got 39 miles an hour out of that one. I'm actually gonna take the pulley back off one more time. I'm gonna put it in the middle. I think that's probably gonna be the best spot for it. Not quite wound out all the way. We lost like a mile an hour, and it seems like a little bit of RPM too. So I don't know if it's just a little bit too tight on there or what, but I'm gonna go back to the middle there, and then we're gonna talk about what my findings are from this tuning session. Alright, so here's my conclusions. We got that thing set back in the middle. We got a 40 mile an hour top speed. Carries RPMs good. But what you really get from that back pulley, if you have a performance engine, you're probably going to want to crank that thing all the way. You don't want it to really go into overdrive and drag the engine down, because if you can turn more RPMs, you can get more speed. This thing is stock, other than having the governor removed and an intake and exhaust, which isn't going to do much for you. It needs a cam. It needs, you know, obviously if you do a cam and you want to make this thing turn more RPMs, you need to do the flywheel and the rod, billet stuff. So, but anyway, this thing, that rear pulley, I mean, this thing's pretty much stock, and I got it on the middle setting on the yellow spring, and that seems to be really good for it. So if you got a hopped up engine, you're probably just going to go ahead and crank that thing all the way and try to keep it out of overdrive. I've heard of some people get like basically like a spacer, put a spacer in there or something. Something. There's something you can do to keep it out of overdrive altogether if you wanted to. What else? That's pretty much it. So let's see. Let's go over this real quick. Alright, so with our belt. We figured out that the different length on the belt doesn't do much. I think it does do a little bit because it rides a little higher on that front pulley, which basically allows it to turn more. So you might get a slightly higher top speed out of it. That's about the main. Oh man, I did burn myself pretty good. That's about the main benefit of that. The springs for the driver, the stall speed, that makes a big difference. Turns out it makes a big difference throughout the whole RPM range. So if you got a high performance engine, once again, you're going to want to stall that thing up kind of high, depending on your riding style, you know. And the higher you stall it, seems like the higher it can carry RPMs through the whole range when you're riding. So that helps to keep it in the power band as well and get you even more mile an hour. We saw more mile an hour out of using that spring. Same thing with the back pulley. Swapping that thing out to the stiffer spring got us another mile an hour by basically keeping it out of overdrive. Plus it just rides a lot nicer. You know, it's not so easy to suck that belt down in there and get into overdrive and lug everything out. So that's pretty much it. That's CVT 30 series CVT tuning in a nutshell. That's what I figured out with this. We had to fix a couple things on the bike. It's pretty funny, but the bike's running really good. The CVT's tuned. I got to get that tachometer off and back on my other bike, but other than that, this thing is good to go for a while. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to get notified of future videos coming out from DJ's Hot Rod and Fab. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.